the February 21st, 2024 edition of the Urban League Jobs Network Digital Career Success Series, brought to you by the National Urban League. I'm your host, Kenneth L. Johnson, president of the Harlem, New York-based diversity recruitment firm East Coast Executives. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. The Digital Career Success Series, DCSS, is a professional development series that helps members of our Urban League Young Professional chapters and other diverse job seekers develop new skill sets that will enhance their careers through digital platforms such as webinars, Facebook, and Instagram Live. The goal is to provide an opportunity for professional development right from one's computer. If you want more after the show, go over to the YouTube channel and visit the UL Jobs Network channel on YouTube to watch past episodes of the Digital Career Success Series. Don't forget to like and subscribe. To our employment partners on the Zoom today, the National Urban League leads the way in connecting diverse talent with great opportunities. Hit the website and post your job opportunities at nuljobsnetwork.com. All right, let's get to it. Today's Digital Career Success Series, Professional Pivots, features two established thought leaders in the career space. We got Geraldine Lynn of Paramount and Kim R. Wells of Howard University. Listen, I got some information for you. Put your favorite HBCUs in the chat, and if you're a member of a D9 organization, drop that in the chat too. We got Alpha Kappa Alpha represented, Kappa Alpha Psi represented today. Listen, let's start it out here. Geraldine, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm extremely good. I'm excited to have you. I'm going to let you jump into your bio, but I want to share with everyone that my experience with Geraldine has been amazing. She's always lent a hand and supported some of the things and initiatives that we do here in New York City. She checked in with the New York Urban League and did a lunch and learn with me. Wow, Geraldine, that's probably like 2 years, 3 years ago, give or take. But you killed it.
2020.
No, you're kidding. It was 2020?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, okay. We're just going to say it was 2 years ago. Listen, do me a favor and tell our listeners about yourself.
Sure. So I know you have a couple of notes here on the screen, but essentially, I'm Geraldine Lynn. I lead outreach and partnerships for our talent acquisition team here at Paramount. And to sum that up, I recruit organizations for us to recruit from. Some of those organizations may be Emma Bowen, T. Howard, NAMIC. There are quite a few organizations that I work with, and my job and my goal is to strategize how we will work with them and to bring in diverse talent into the organization.
You know, I'm looking at this and I'm looking at the Geraldine Says, and I remember following that hashtag and kind of checking in on some of the stuff you were dropping during the pandemic. Keep doing amazing work. I appreciate you so much for what you mean to the space. So thank you so very much for joining us today. Now we're going to go a little bit south to DC and check in with Mr. Kim R. Wells, Jersey's own, but representing Howard University as well. Kim, how are you today?
I'm well, Kenneth, how are you?
I'm exceptional today. It's a beautiful day. It's a Digital Career Success Series Wednesday, so that always works for me. Listen, please do me a favor and just kind of touch in on your experience, your background, and then we'll jump into this conversation.
Absolutely. Everyone, Kim Wells from Howard University, the Mecca. And I'm glad to come to you to share a little bit about what we're doing, what we're talking about down at Howard. 25 years of experience. I've been working in both the corporate and in higher education, and still pivot back and forth into both. And do a lot of work with a lot of major corporations, small businesses, but most importantly, work with our executive MBA program. So executive MBA and our executive leadership initiatives. We've got some of the best and brightest executives coming through to us with us in the EMBA. As well as we host professionals, leaders from around the world, actually, in our executive leadership programs, and just excited to just be able to share some of my expertise and knowledge. So I'm a master certified coach as well, a member of the Marshall Goldsmith 100, and also do some private advisement and consulting. So my thing is, though, that this is more of a mission. So regardless, I just want to pour into people, work with people, try to encourage us to really get ours out here. You know what I mean? Not just sit back and accept what's given to us, but really try to drive our folks to go to the next level. So I'll stop there, Kenneth, and I look forward to this conversation.
Man, I was going to tell you to keep going, man. Some of that's really impressive stuff you have there. Speaking of the best and brightest, our Digital Career Success Series audience is amazing, and I love just having them. So listen, I want you guys to check in on the chat, but also drop your questions in the Q&A. We will have a Q&A segment later on in the program where Geraldine and Kim will answer your questions. But right now, let's give some key considerations to the topic at hand, professional pivots. It seems like a big piece of the professional pivot conversation kind of lies around networking and building relationships. Would either of you want to tap in and touch a little more on what that kind of looks like from a pivot standpoint? Geraldine, you going to take it?
Yes, I was muted, but wow. So networking, anyone who's ever had a conversation with me about their career knows one of the first things I say is network, 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 build relationships. Build them today, even if you're not looking for an opportunity, build them with as many people as you possibly can. I've navigated my career, as you saw in one of the prior slides. I've been in different industries, I've been in different roles, and I have navigated them all successfully. I know people use that it's your network that makes your net worth. Even coming here to Paramount, I met a colleague years before I came here. And then I attended an event here. We kept connected on LinkedIn, nothing more than that. And then an opportunity came up, and I was not only did I interview, but I also got a lot of recommendations for the opportunity. And then once I came in, it doesn't stop once you have the opportunity, right? So once I came into Paramount, I came in here as a recruiter. I don't actively recruit anymore, but because I built strong relationships, some of my peers were able to advocate for me when I was not in the room and not at the table. And they really, really thought that I had really strong relationship building skills, that I could speak to all levels of the organization, that I would get a clear understanding, and then I could go off and come back with results. And so I always tell people, these are kind of my top two. I mean, you need to have a skill set, but I've seen some people not have a strong skill set. But if they are strong in networking and strong in relationship building, opportunities kind of just come to you.
Yeah. So that tends to be the key, right? So Kim, I know that just based on kind of your background and where you've positioned yourself in the space, networking and relationship building must be key to your success.
No, absolutely. I like to call it your professional capital. So you're always working on it. You're always working on it. That's what your relationships. We talked earlier about the D9 and institutions that you're part of, the associations that you're part of, all of the professional crowds and circles that you're in. You want to continually build those out, but be strategic. Don't try to be all things, all people, but be strategic. You know your personal mission, your purpose, what you're trying to do. So work and build towards that in many ways. But be that person that you have that gravitas, as they say. You know what I mean? So when you walk in the room, you walk in with credibility. You walk in with people know your history. They know what you're about. And when you start working on yourself, and then at the same time, be a listener, be a strategic listener. Sometimes in our communities, we want to talk a lot, but we got to listen strategically for information, listen for nuggets of just wisdom that will come from people that have already done this before. And then you're going to start to build. You'll be valuable. I mean, what we're looking at is creating value so that we can now go market that value across all kinds of industries, across the continents, right? So hopefully we talk about that, Kenneth, because more need to look at pivoting to doing some work over in the continent and across the Caribbean. We double or triple our values in our businesses and what we do if we can make those kind of pivots as well. So a lot to talk about here, but it really starts with yourself. Really
So
starts.
yeah, so starting with yourself, and I see the bullet point here for transferable skills, and oftentimes people kind of look internally and say, "Hey, I think I'm good at this." But Geraldine, what's that feedback cycle like? Is that should one speak to others about what they believe their skill sets are as it relates to their work performance?
It's almost like I do this. So here's what I typically recommend. Write down what you feel like your skills are, the skills that you use maybe in your current role or skills that you've used, right? I encourage people to ask their close friend group, what do you think I'm good at? How do you see me? Right? Because sometimes our perception of, our skill set can look a little bit different. Then ask if you have a relationship with any former managers or former colleagues. Think about what you've gotten, what people have said, oh, you did that really well, right? So we all have skills, but I would focus kind of on those skills that you probably show up in more, that are the strongest skills that you have, right? And so once you make that list, then what things come to you naturally in your skill set? What things do you almost not even think about that you do, right? And then once you think about that, see how you can marry them, right? So I wasn't always in recruiting. I was actually in a more operational role, but I was really good with people. I was an active listener. I could take what I heard and build a strategy or, change a process. And so I naturally was good at listening to people and saying, oh, you know what? You could do this job. Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And so that was how I made the transition into recruiting. There are other things that go into recruiting, but I had kind of those foundational skill sets and transferable skills that I was using in that role that I could bring into recruiting. And so I think a lot of people miss the step of just looking into what other roles, what could I use these same skill sets?
It's interesting, as you speak about transferable skills, I'd like to bring Kim into the conversation just because I know that once people are in a position to identify the skill sets that they like to utilize, sometimes they require some additional learning and upskilling. So you being in an academic center, how do you encourage people to explore and navigate that part of the pivot equation?
Absolutely. So yeah, everyone should, as my colleague is saying today, do some self-reflection. Um, that's going to require a few things too, if not to take too much of a step to the left here. But we do need to, I mentioned it in one of my other points I shared earlier in our slides was we have to get out of our feelings. We have to get out of our feelings. Open yourself up for that feedback that others will share. Give people permission to give you feedback so we can learn where we are. And if you hear something that's not necessarily exciting to you, that's okay. But as we learn and we open ourselves up to grow and to hear feedback, I'm talking about productive feedback or, positive feedback. I mean, some people are going to be haters. We know that. So I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about that. But we have to start with looking at where we are and who we are. Then you start to roll out a process or develop a process where you can get upskilled because you're going to see gaps. You're going to see where you want to be, and where you want to be, you might not have all of those pieces. So today, a quick way to really upskill is go through a certificate program, a fraction of the cost of a full degree. You can get skills in finance, negotiation, leadership, international business, all kinds of great stuffs out there today. But then that's a way to start to fill the gaps. And also, while you're filling the gaps in your skills, you also may start to fill the gaps in those programs with your networks, because now you're going to be meeting people from all over the country, in many cases outside of the country. And now we're starting to move in the right direction. Now we're feeling better about who we are and where we're trying to go.
Hey, Kim, let's discuss this here. So there are steps to assess your current skills. We can go to the next slide. there are steps to consider when you're assessing your current skill level, right? And it's basically the art of the pivot.
Yes.
So I'm looking at this bullet here, and it's, pivoting is the historic hallmark of successful Black executives. Kind of understanding that you sit in an executive MBA program and seeing people navigate that. I'd like for you to kind of touch base on some of that, and then I'm going to bring Geraldine in to just speak about kind of getting out of your feelings and making change happen, because I know she's actually done these pivots within an organization. So let's start with you. The hallmark of a successful Black executive, the art of the pivot. Tell us about that.
I'm very blessed. So I work with a lot of our top people around the country that come through us for degrees and certificates and all kinds of stuff. Also, I have a great opportunity to coach with a lot of them through Howard, and then I also have a private practice. What I've heard from our people currently, and then what I've researched of our people in the past, we've always been agile, as we all know. Everybody here knows that. So our opportunities aren't always the same as others. And so we've had to learn how to identify opportunity in what could be a challenging, chaotic, difficult situation. And you go all the way back in history, our people have always known how to make lemonade out of lemons. And so we have to start to look today, not just for these great, perfect opportunities, but what do I have to do in order to get there? What is right under my nose in my organization, which I know my colleagues is about to talk about, but what's out in that marketplace? How can I now target, engage opportunities and just see it differently? It may not be as open and clear, as supported in some cases as some experience, but what we have to do is look to the past. Look at how some of the giants of past business and industry got into these markets. They didn't have a multi-million-dollar, family situation where they're paying bills and investing in them, but they found a way to be agile, to move around in the process and find their targets and go for them. So today we have to think different. We can't think everything's going to work for us the way that it works for some other folks. So we have to be different.
I want to stay there for a second, just kind of being agile and navigating, because Geraldine, if you don't mind, you started this out talking about, kind of being in an operations capacity, moving on to talent acquisition, and now partnerships, I believe. I believe that's the course, right? But so change indeed happens. And as we sit here in a space today and we look at some of the organizations shifting kind of where their talent sits within said organizations, how do you kind of look at the business with real clear lens and say, all right, you know what, this is an opportunity that I might want to go in this direction. It's presented itself. I'd like to consider it. Like, you've actually made moves to position yourself really close to the bottom line of organizations, and I can appreciate that. So can you talk to us about that mindset?
So, it really goes back to being flexible. When the opportunity came to me here, I did have some hesitation because I'm a really great, recruiter, and I have really great relationships with my hiring managers and my HR partners. But I knew that I needed to stretch in some other areas. I knew I needed to stretch. When you recruit, you have a strategy, but once you've done it for some time, the strategy is kind of rinse and repeat. Every now and again, you might need to do a little bit more of something and a little less of something else. But I knew I needed to grow in my strategic mindset. And so when the opportunity was presented to me, I did reach out to a former manager. I explained the opportunity to her, and I said, based upon, how I showed up with you, what do you think about this opportunity? And she was like, hands down, it's like this job was made for you. And I'm like, really? And she's like, yes, be adaptable, be flexible. This this role that I'm in now, I work with different partners. I work a lot with our Office of Global Inclusion. I work a lot with our corporate social responsibility team. I get to meet a lot of the executives in a different way, not so much like, when is my role going to be filled, but thinking about the strategy and the future of their teams. And so I am able to use some of my skill sets from my other jobs, but it's stretched me and it's grown me and it's fun. I love learning about new organizations and kind of, the members in those organizations and how they could come into our organization and make an impact. I do, and I didn't outline it here, but the organizations that I typically connect with are focused on DEI. So whether it's veterans, whether it's gender, race, those are the organizations that I'm primarily working with so that we could diversify our talent in-house. But I was flexible and I was open to the opportunity. I did think about it. I didn't just say yes. And I knew that that is something really important to this organization. So I knew that I would be able to get into new spaces and network with new people and build relationships with new people.
I love it. We're going to jump a slide and go to the clarity exercise. But Geraldine, you saying that and just kind of having worked with you in the past and just seeing the way you work, it just seems so mission aligned, the work that you're doing now. And I think there's a journey in everyone's career that gets them exposure and gets them positioned in places where they can have real impact. And talent acquisition is great, but wow, you can also impact talent acquisition through partnership, right? And it seems like you've found your way to do that, and you're balancing that extremely well. Kudos to you.
Thank you.
All right, listen, Kim, I wanna tap in with you here on this clarity exercise slide. When I saw this, I'm like, I really need to know a little more about how this plays out. So pause, reflect, align, and drive forward. Talk to me, my friend.
Yeah, before we make any hasty decisions, we have to pause. We need to pause. Again, that goes back to, we can't be just in our feelings. Just because you had a bad meeting and the manager said something out of pocket, let's pause. Just because we went to, we're on a project, it's not going like we want, we need to pause. We have to make strategic decisions that are based on facts, that are based on opportunity, and align us with our values. So let's go to reflect. Let's spend some time thinking about it. Take a weekend at the beach. Go talk to mom and them on the porch. Whatever we got to do, Blake, we need to do some reflecting, all right, before we just jump into things. And remember who we are, whose we are. What are we trying to do? What is our value in this marketplace? My value as an individual, my integrity, all of those things. So we don't have time to unpack all of that. But then we have to start aligning. What I'm really looking at here is aligning your mission with the mission of these organizations. Okay, your mission with the mission of different industries or markets even. Okay, so who's doing what I want to do at a high level and would actually recognize the talent I am bringing to the table? Okay, again, there's a lot of strategic development and work and planning we want to do, but we don't want to take forever. Remember, this is about progress, not perfection. Let me say that again, because sometimes we got some on the line. I know we overthink a lot of things. It's about progress. Now, I'm not saying be messy. We do need to make sure we do our homework. Okay, we do need to make sure we're collecting the right information or the intelligence about the situation. But once we get that together, and we got a level of confidence and we check in with the right people that really have our interests, our best interests in mind, and it makes sense, let's look at that alignment and let's start moving forward. Okay, again, one of your greatest assets is your time, right? So we don't want to be somewhere in a company too long or in a situation too long where now you start to lose value, right? You start to lose interest, your performance goes down. So, and even as you are pivoting, how you pivot, it's just like the best athletes. They're the ones that can plant their foot and pivot, right, Kenneth? They're the ones that know how to very quickly go in and out of situations. This is something that's bigger than just one major pivot, but you have to learn how to pivot in your career and how you're moving as a professional. Those who get stuck, sitting there over analyzing, getting in their feelings, you're going to lose value. It's not going to work. And so often when I talk to our executives, let's talk about some of these things. Let's do some reflection work. Let's look at the timing of this situation. Let's look at where we are. There's something here on the cultural intelligence matters. I like to share with some of our people that we're not always culturally as intelligent as we think we are. Okay, I'm gonna stop there for a second, because sometimes we always say is them folks aren't culturally intelligent, but some of us get in the room and then we don't share our points because we're thinking somebody's looking at us a certain way, or thinking or assuming something about us. So we talk about a lot. I've done a lot of work in DI. Their biases, but we're getting caught up in that. All right. We have to work on making sure that we are seeing the room with clarity, seeing the room in a grounded nature, seeing the room and understanding our mission in that meeting or mission in that organization. The cultural intelligence, sometimes we get all caught up with certain things. Look, this is not politics. This is not a political football we're dealing with. We're coming in here. We got a mission at hand. I'm going to go in and I'm going to accomplish that mission. And as the young people say, I'm going to get that bag in that mission. Right. So I'm not coming in here to argue with you, be all caught up in something. Somebody looked at me funny. No, we got a mission. And that's what we really try to drive. I know at Howard and across a lot of the groups, and even talking with my colleagues and friends that are at senior roles all around the nation, we got a mission. And so we can't worry about what this politician's saying, what this court case is, somebody's this and that. We get messy. And because we're messy, we don't get where we want to get sometimes. And
let's talk about getting the bag. You got Money Matters up here. Talk to me.
Let's talk. Getting the bag is critical. And it starts with, do you know your value? Because some of us are sitting on jobs right now and we're making a fraction of what we should be making. And it's a lot of it's because we're not doing our homework. You've been somewhere too long, or somebody convinced you to be at a certain organization, and what they're paying, you got to settle for that. Know your value. Do your research. There's all kinds of sites, et cetera. We don't need to even go into some of that today, where you understand what people are, how people are being compensated in different parts of the country, in different industries, different parts of the world. Keep saying world, somebody listen to that, because there's opportunities out there that we're not pursuing, and we got certain folks out there pursuing those and creating all kinds of havoc. I don't want to get too political today, but what we need to do is understand what we can bring to the table. If such and such XYZ corporation says, no, you're only worth 100,000, and I guarantee you can look across the spectrum and find somebody that'll pay you 60, 70K just to walk in the door. No changes, all right? So again, we have to think differently about this stuff. We're getting stuck because we are not negotiating. We are getting caught up, hate to say it for the fourth or fifth time, in our feelings about situations. And we're not looking at this stuff as a professional who's prepared, who have people that have supported us. If I make Kenneth pray for us, look, we're showing up with a mission. And that's what I try to tell our people. I'm not showing up here just to be, just to be here and be happy. Look, I'm here with a mission, and I'm looking at making impact. If this doesn't align with you, I don't need to share all of that necessarily with everybody, but that's what I need to be thinking. And then I'm going to move forward and I'm going to accomplish what I do. Look at Howard. A couple of years ago, we were 20% over the national average for salaries. And people say, okay, Howard, and you got some other schools, they're always rah-rah running their mouth, right? But that's because we prepare our students for salary negotiations. We prepare our students to know their value and target organizations that are going to make sense. You don't need to be with an operation that will not compensate you properly.
So Kim, let's talk about this, right? So as we discuss that, and we discuss strategies that we can use kind of to network with professionals. Geraldine, I'm going to come to you real quick. One of the strategies that I always speak about, and we can go to the next slide, please, is the strategy of storytelling, right? As we start moving through and you're looking at desired fields and you're seeking mentorship or guidance to make your career pivot, you have to tell a story, right? You have to be able to convey why you believe your skills align well with the opportunities that you're looking for. Talk to me about your experience with that and just kind of any advice that you can offer for individuals that are looking to align strategies to network.
Um, I would say, so it took me a while to really hone in what my story was, but it took a lot of reflection, a lot of thinking about what my next steps are going to be even after this step. So every time I take on an opportunity, I want to know, I want to think about how I'm going to navigate this. How long am I going to learn, really kind of own the opportunity, and then how am I going to move into my next step? So I'm always thinking about the next step after I get into one step, right? So in terms of telling your story, right? So when you interview, a lot of people tell you a lot of different things or don't really know why they want to do something or why they want to work at an organization. And I always encourage people to just take a step back, think about your why, think about how you've gotten here, think about what you've done, think about what you want to do, and be able to articulate that in a concise way, be able to articulate kind of who you are, what you bring, what will your impact be, right? So great, you want to be a producer, great, because you think that you're good at producing. Well, what is the story? How did you get into it? You know, what have you learned from other people? What do you want to come in and do? How are you going to make an impact? How are you going to grow in the organization? And then, you know, you kind of create a story. And then the more you do it, it'll come to you naturally. But when I meet people and they want to hear about my background, the first thing I talk about is networking and relationship building and how I gain trust. And I've been able to do that with the different types of people that I've worked with. And I like working in different industries because I take a little bit of what I learned from one industry and bring it into the next industry. So when you hire me or when I'm on your team or when I'm partnering with you, I can think more broadly in terms of challenges that could arise, how we can navigate something a little bit different, how we can reach out to a broader audience. So it took me a while to get there, but I think a lot of it is just really reflecting on your why, your how, and your next steps.
Love it. It's the Urban League Jobs Network Digital Career Success Series brought to you by the National Urban League. We are here today with Geraldine Lynn, Kemar Wells. Mr. Wells, let's talk about it. It's intelligence gathering, right?
Yes.
You know, people need to kind of think like an executive when they're making professional pivots. So walk us through the bullet points we have here on this slide. If you can just take us on this journey real quick, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. So everyone, see yourself first as a valuable commodity going into this marketplace. So, and I agree with my colleague. You need to be able to tell that story, tell it with precision, tell it with precision, meaning, hey, my impact in my journey has been I've generated X amount of dollars, I've saved X amount of dollars, I've grown in the market this way, done these things. We need to be precise. Okay. So that's just to kind of set the foundation here, Kenneth. So you have to, as you're looking to go somewhere else, you're looking to pivot. We have to do the intelligence. Just think about how the CIA and all these folks, sometimes we get a little skeptical, but how they get information. Who are you going to be in contact with? What's going on the ground? Who are the key stakeholders and players that I must engage with? Do your homework. A lot of people on the line right now have all kinds of great degrees, several degrees behind their names, but they forgot how to do homework somehow. What we need to do is do our homework, all right? Find out what is everyone from the CEO, learn a little bit about how they see the world, about the directions they're going in, where they went to school. If somebody went to undergrad and they were a sociology major, they're going to see the world different than somebody who went to undergrad and they were engineering major. No matter where they are now, you want to understand who are the people you're dealing with and how are they moving. That intelligence is also the chatter. Just like, again, an intelligence agency. What are people saying? Are they about to go in a whole new direction? Where's that company investing their resources right now? Have they pivoted? How did 2020 and 2021 impact that organization? You've got to gather your intelligence. Now, I say some of that comes from getting a coach. And I think I'm not just saying that because I am a coach, but I'm telling you, like anybody on this call right now, my sister as well, these are individuals that can help you reflect where you are and help you almost be more neutral in giving you feedback about where you are and about this information you're gathering and give you more insight and direction. We have to start to, in our communities, investing more in coaches. I'm in the Goldsmith 100. When I'm talking with my colleagues in that group, almost all top executives from some of these other folks, they all got coaches. It's almost like if you want to be an athlete, you're going in the room and you want to compete against this person, they've been coached up for years. We have to do better in that. Internal and external pivots. Let's just real quickly look at that. Internally, what are the opportunities within my organization? What's the movement in our organization? How do I connect, communicate within my organization? It might be a little different. There's a such thing as vertical communication when I have to communicate up, right, internally, and horizontal across with different groups. We've got to master. It's almost like we call it in the Black community like code switching, right? Are you efficient and fluent in being able to have these different conversations? We need to work on that because sometimes people can talk well down, communicate well down, but not up. They freeze up. And so we have to work on those things externally too. When you go to a different market in a different part of the nation, do your homework, right? Because that's also a type of pivot. If you're in the Midwest, executives are going to think certain ways sometimes. I'm not trying to generalize on nobody, but you will have those issues. You need to be prepared for them if you confront them. If you go to certain parts of the world, certain parts of Europe, certain parts of even our continent, the continent of Africa, we have to know how to externally pivot. Don't go to Nigeria telling people they don't know what they're doing. You will not achieve or secure any business, right? So know how to pivot, how to change, how to research, how to respect who you're coming in contact with, right? Again, do you have context on the ground? Really quickly, I'm getting there, Kenneth. Who do you know on the ground? It's just like, let's go back to the intelligence agency, right? Who are operatives on the ground? You might know somebody from your sorority, from your university, from your community that are in there. Please, folks, give those people a quick call, offer them a lunch, a cup of coffee, but we need to have a conversation. And sometimes you're cultivating those contacts. Sometimes the contacts you've already had in place. But we need to hear it from the ground what's going on so we can get a better understanding of what we're dealing with. We talked about coaching, but once again, folks, it's about progress. You're not going to get perfect with all, you're not going to be perfect. Most people in the business world are not perfect. Why do we think we have to be perfect? Okay. Again, I'm not saying to go in there finessing and all this foolishness, but what I am talking about is know what's happening, the general trends, align yourself, and let's move. Let's not keep playing around because time is money. You wait 5 years, you've lost 5 years worth of value in the marketplace, right? So we need to think about, I got to move now because in the future, my value goes down, the opportunities may close up, a lot of things can happen. So progress, that means move, launch, do what you have to do to keep moving.
Man, you know, Kim, that slide right there is exactly why I was excited, thrilled, honored to have you as a guest on the Digital Career Success Series. I love what you did there. That was exceptional. Hey, listen, to our audience, if you have any questions, please drop them into the Q&A. We're headed there very soon. Drop your questions for Kim and Geraldine in the Q&A. All right, Geraldine, listen, Kim kind of laid that out for us there. So now it's time to be realistic and for action.
Mm-hmm.
Can you kind of run us through kind of how someone can create a plan for those types of just movement?
So, and it looks different in internal pivots and just when you're looking to what your next steps are, right? So I'll start internally because Kim touched upon some really, really good gems that I actually use, right? So first and foremost, your communication, whether you're communicating down, across, or up, right? So a clear example would be when I knew that I would have more contact with my senior leadership, I focused a lot more on showing numbers, impact, making it concise. They don't want a lot of details. They don't want a lot of context. Many times they may be short on time. Get to the point. And data will always support any recommendations or strategy that you want their buy-in for, right? So those are things that I did when I came into the organization, and those were some of the things that they looked at, and a pivot essentially came to me. I didn't work toward the pivot. I didn't even know it was an opportunity that I could work toward. It didn't, the role as I sit in it did not exist. Right. And so externally, what I have done to put things in place is some of what we already talked about, but one, assessing my skills, two, finding out how other people look at me and how they look at my skill set and what they see that I'm great at, aligning them. And then I knew, you know what, yes, I would love to be in talent acquisition. And then I took the steps. I actually did some HR certifications. I already had a graduate degree in organizational leadership, but some very specific HR certifications. So some touched on coaching, some touched on influencing business leaders, some touched on succession planning, and then I think some payroll. And so I did that. I actually used the platform Coursera, and they partner with different colleges and universities, reputable colleges and universities, and got that. And then after that, I looked at my resume and I looked at what I did at my past roles and how they could align. And I tweaked my bullet points. I did not say I did something I did not do, but I rephrased them to align with the type of roles that I was going to apply for. And it took a while, and I did take a pay cut. And I'm not telling everyone to do that, but sometimes I think some people are a little unrealistic when you're going into a completely different field and wanting to kind of stay, where they are, maybe in terms of title or in terms of compensation. And then once I got into a full-on talent acquisition role, I networked. I joined groups. I connected with people on LinkedIn and read a lot of their posts. I even read the comments to learn. I learned a lot that way. I learned a lot in-person networking, listening to different panels, listening to people's different trajectories and how they ended up where they were, because everybody's path is not straight. Some people ended up in their roles haphazardly, or they were very strategic in going there. And so those would be the things that I would do to successfully pivot. And then I showed myself. I talked about what I was doing. I talked about projects that I worked on. I talked about people that I met at different organizations, and then opportunities came to me, which I think is always the goal. You want opportunities to come to you. And so as opportunities came to me, I did not forget about other people. I'm always open if someone wants to know, okay, here's where I am. What do you think I should do next? I typically ask a lot of questions to see what you've already done, but those are the steps. Those are actionable steps. I would say anyone today that is looking to pivot, hopefully they've already looked at their transferable skills, but then also practice jargon, in that different area. Some terms that you may use in what you're doing now, they don't use in, where you're striving to go. So learn different things like that. There's so much information at your fingertips. Literally.
I love
LinkedIn, Google, this type of platform, just listening. Some things that Kim and I share may apply. They may not apply for you for another year or so, or some just doesn't apply, but you may be able to share it with someone else. So those are the steps that I would say to take. And then once you get in to wherever you want to get to, make sure you continue to build those relationships. You continue to network so that more opportunities come your way, and continue to be flexible.
I love the information you shared, because you spoke about Coursera. I know Kim spoke about certifications and things of that nature. Kim, I want to jump into the Q&A. We're at about, 10 minutes left of this discussion. So I definitely want to cater to our audience a little because they have some great questions for you guys. So Kim, I'm going to come right to you on the first one. Do you have any suggestions for professionals in higher education who are interested in pivoting but are having a hard time doing so due to the unique job market, i.e. ghost jobs?
Very interesting. First and foremost, if you're in higher education, understand education is a business. Okay, so we want to know the numbers. We want to know what the fluctuations, what are the trends in that institution you're currently in, or where they would like to go, or others that you're targeting. Do your homework. By the way, I wanted to drop, when we're doing our homework, we haven't talked about AI today. Black professionals, we need to particularly get up to speed. You can like 10 times your performance, your productivity by just doing a quick scan like we do. Everybody's used to doing Google. Okay, do a quick AI, ask a few questions. That's another topic for Kenneth to bring to y'all. But we really have to
listen, Kim, we got it on deck March 20th. So you're right in line. We have an AI conversation on deck March 20th.
To that.
Thank you for chewing that up.
But we need to understand our market. So if you're in higher education, actually you could pivot into consulting. You can pivot into government. You can pivot into as a private, independent, freelance contractor. You've got a lot of those skills. Again, we've got to do our own assessment, look at the skills that are really important to that particular institution. We want to make sure we've got gaps closed, or at least we can speak to any gaps, and then let's move forward. I think we get caught up in that in higher education, we got a lot of folks that see it as a little bit more of a soft space, meaning soft skill sets, et cetera. No, there's a lot of hard skill sets. There's finance people in higher education. There's strategy people in higher education. There's thought leaders. There's scholars. So look at where do you align, and then let's design a plan and let's go for it.
I appreciate it. I appreciate the feedback. We're gonna work through some of these questions. They're coming in. So Geraldine, I'm gonna ask you to put the talent acquisition hat on. I'm just gonna ask you to do that. I don't want you to mess your hair up, but I need you to put that hat on for me for a second, right?
Sure.
This person says, I'm a certified change management practitioner with years of working as a consultant to large corporations. I am looking for steady, full-time work, and I find that many companies still don't know about change management. So my resume doesn't appeal to them. You know I'm a recruiter as well, and you know my advice is they're probably the wrong companies, but talk to me.
That was literally the first. Yes. Well, that's somewhat interesting to me. So first, I would say it's probably not the right company. Second, every company has a change management arm. So a lot of companies have a person who is responsible for change management, and then sometimes it may fall within the HR, depends on the structure of the organization. So change management is not something that should be unknown. Change management happens a lot when you shift leaders, when you are bringing on new tools. Like there's a lot of different ways that change management fits in an organization. I would say I would take another look at the organizations that you're applying to. I know sometimes we may want to apply to certain organizations or stay in certain industries. And I think Kim spoke about this earlier, but again, be flexible to maybe look into other industries.
Yeah, I definitely believe that to be the case. Listen, we're going to go rapid fire on some of this. I'm just looking at these questions, and the Q&A just continue to grow. I'm going to try to get through as many as possible. Kim, I want to come to you with this one. What successful strategies are you finding for colleagues approaching retirement and going above the ageism scenario?
Look at what you've done well. Pull out those skill sets and those talents, polish them, learn how to market them into different spaces and places, and go for it. Talk to those that are in those spaces, find out what they're looking for with people. And once again, if you're building that professional capital, that should be happening all along. Now you've got people that you can go to because you've spent a career, a lifetime in spaces. And so you should have a wealth of networks at a certain age. And And people, by the way, they don't want to hear everything coming from Gen Zs and millennials. Okay, sometimes they want to hear some of us grown folks, older folks, right, talk about things. I'm sorry. Hopefully, none of y'all write me on that one. But really, they hear somebody with a little more season talk about their journey. And so, just be confident. We all bring value to the table. Use that and use that to help catapult you to go to the next level.
Man, I'm thinking they set these questions up because they're kind of rolling the way I need them to roll. Geraldine, this individual wants to pivot from a customer service position to a supply chain manager role. Should they apply to entry-level opportunities?
Yes. Do you have any experience in supply chain? Because customer service is fairly vague. I definitely think you should be open to opportunities. Don't supply chain, right? So I wouldn't say supply chain manager. One, a manager could be different in a lot of different. Sometimes a manager is almost direct the level. Sometimes a manager is just managing. It's not a people leader. So that one is pretty loaded. I don't know if I could give like a very specific answer, but I don't know about going for manager and maybe just looking at supply chain in a whole and looking at different opportunities.
Yeah, and I'm also going to suggest that individual leverage tools and resources like LinkedIn and just networking in general to kind of find relationships within organizations that have open opportunities, and that may allow you to build a network to support your pivot at a higher level, right? So take that into consideration as well. Kim, I want you to chime in on this one for me. Do you have any advice for young professionals? What are some certifications you have seen and heard of that are really marketable right now?
Anything in finance, anything in AI, negotiation skill sets is really big. Sales, tried and true. These are areas that no matter what area you pivot into, they will be valuable skill sets. So you want to look at those. If we want to go a little bit further, I mean, again, coaching. So we are offered a coaching certification at Howard. Some of these areas and coaching, that industry continues to grow very quickly, even though there's a saturation. You need to find a way to stand out in the crowd. But there's some great stuff out there. Check the pricing, check the institution, make sure that the institution has a little pull, has a little clout. And that might be something you do consider. So if you're going to pay an extra $200-300 to go, I'm not talking about these $10,000 programs, but there's a lot of great ones out there that are within 1,000, 2,000 plus ranges, not too expensive. Think about that. It's a quick, efficient, and actually a feasible way to really skill up and make some changes.
Yeah, upskilling is a real thing, and it's definitely a tool that you can use to really change your trajectory. So please take Kim's advice on that one. Geraldine, this individual is currently in B2B sales for medium-sized businesses, but the last few roles were in the same sector. They've done a little bit of everything. How does someone who is a job hopper, a self-proclaimed job hopper, leverage their eclectic experience to pivot to something new?
So I'm not sure what you
Rough
want to
question.
go into, but you probably can tailor your resume to be more skill-based, so that the focus is not on the fact that you've job hopped, because you may be getting stopped at that point if a recruiter is overwhelmed with resumes and it appears that you're a job hopper. They may just go to the next profile. So I would start with that. But I would encourage you to think about what you actually want to do, and focus there. I mean, sales, there's a lot of skill sets that are used in sales. So I would think about, what your strong skill sets are and what you want to do next. But in terms of your resume, I would tailor it more to skills and not kind of how you see most resumes, the job and then the bullet points. I would kind of do bullet points that fall under categories and then list the jobs that you worked in.
Yeah, and please check out our session. We did a resume session, I don't know, probably about 2 weeks ago with Portia and Denise Mills. It's on the YouTube channel. I know a question was asked if this recording will be shared with the audience. this session and all of the Urban League Job Network Digital Career Success Series sessions are on the Urban League Jobs Network YouTube channel. So please don't hesitate to go there, watch this session, watch some of the later sessions. We have the information right there for you, and it's evergreen. So please stay connected. All right, Kim, I'm going to jump into this real quick, and then we're going to leave out. But it's a packaged question. It was, what is the proper way to negotiate your salary? And I know we spoke about kind of getting this money, so I want you to chime in here. But they're saying when applying for jobs, some applications ask for a desired minimum salary. How do they answer this? And will they be disqualified if they expect a higher salary?
One more time about the desired minimum salary. Who
Yes, no problem. So when applying for jobs, some applications ask for a desired or minimum salary. How do they answer this question? I want to hear from you. You know, I always, as the recruiter mindset, I tell people they should do their research and have a range. But what are your thoughts on how they should negotiate this particular problem?
Okay, check that organization salary. Sometimes that you can find that out on Indeed and some of these different sites. What have they actually paid recently for that position? Again, a lot of that information is right under our nose. Also, then look at their competitors. What are they paying for the same type of role? Okay, so now you're going to get some kind of a framework of where you should be or what's the industry paying. Now I'm looking at that information, and now I'm doing the assessment of what my value is, where I'm at, where I want to be, those kinds of things. We got to keep it real, folks. You know, don't take a job that's too low in salary because you will not stay there. Then you'll be like the last person, a job hopper. Should always try to stay 2 years, 2.5 years. All right. So that being said, look at what the numbers are out there. Understand what makes sense for you, where you are as a professional. I need to make this transition, and some of that might cost you a bit. So maybe, I mean, sometimes it's a little bit of a salary. You might lose some. I don't recommend that necessarily, but just maybe it's a lateral move. But again, look at all of these pieces of information. Make your best possible decision. Okay, what is going to make sure you can live the lifestyle you want to live? Okay, am I in an organization with a certain brand? Because you might be able to leverage that brand later on in your career. So there's a lot to that. It's kind of a loaded question, but you got to do your in this negotiation piece.
So definitely, the key is do your research. Listen, 20 seconds, give or take. Geraldine, any closing remarks?
I wish everyone the best of luck. Connect with me on LinkedIn if you have any additional questions about career pivoting. And that, I think that's it.
All right.
I'm trying to answer some questions in the chat.
I see you working. Kim, any closing remarks on your behalf, sir?
No, I'm wishing everybody out there the best. Know your value. Go for it. Stop hesitating. Don't worry about what everybody's saying or not saying. Do your homework, know your value, and go for it. You guys are very talented. And it's time that we go out there and get ours.
We appreciate you, my friend. Look, if you want to stay connected to the work of Geraldine Lynn, please do not hesitate to reach out to her. Follow that hashtag Geraldine Says. You're still doing that, but she's on Instagram. I know she's on Instagram heavy, and you can connect with her on LinkedIn. Look, this is a testament of the work of people just being out here and being active. I met Geraldine through social, following Geraldine Says, tapping into her content. And we've done a couple things together, and I value her and appreciate her as a friend. So stay locked in. If you want to stay in touch with Mr. Wells, HU, whew, this man is doing some amazing work out here. The coaching work, the executive MBA work. You probably want to find him on LinkedIn. You know that's where I track him down at. So I know he will accept your invite and also share his knowledge and expertise at will. So please tap in. But he is a career coach, and you might want to tap into some of those services and resources as well. Look, my name's Kenneth L. Johnson. You know I do this for the National Urban League and the Urban League Jobs Network consistently. You can find me on LinkedIn, but also just tap into the website at eastcoastexecutives.com or Instagram at KLJohnsonInfo. Love this work, love building relationships, love supporting you. We're going to do it again in 2 weeks. I think it's March 6th. Empowering Futures, Women Leading the Way in DEI. You got to join us. It's going to be amazing. It's Women's History Month. That's how we kick it off at the National Urban League. We bring in leaders in their field, and we offer them up to you for professional development. I'd like to thank the team at the National Urban League, Wanda Jackson, Corey O'Donnell steering the ship for us. I told you I'd get out of here by 1 o'clock. I'd like to thank our guests today, Geraldine Lynn, Kemar Wells, and the whole team at the UL Jobs Network. I appreciate you guys. Thank you, the audience, for just riding this with us today. You had some great questions. We'll see you in 2 weeks. March 6th, Empowering Futures, Women Leading the Way in DI. Take care.